There are so many telltale signs that something is clearly wrong with Meghan. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but I mean, how can you get your age so wrong?
Tom Bower has spent 4 decades proving things people spent fortunes trying to bury. Samantha Markle spent 9 years being laughed at for saying one thing about her half-sister. And this month, with Meghan Markle turning 45, those two names have landed on the same argument, and royal watchers who agree on nothing are suddenly at each other's throats over a single number. Not a scandal, a number. Because if the year everyone has been printing since 2016 is wrong, then the trouble does not start with Meghan. It starts with everybody who repeated it.
I think the palace and the machinery of the monarchy needs to take Harry and Meghan more seriously and make sure that Harry and Meghan's antics don't impact the future of
Meghan is living a life that she's winning and she's doing all these great things, but the reality is not that. The reality is she's a joke.
The claim itself. Meghan Markle turned 45 this month. The 4th of August, 1981, is the date on every official record that has ever been produced about her. It is the date the palace used, the date the press used, and for the better part of 40 years, it is the date her own family used. The claim now circulating says that date is wrong, not by a few weeks, by years. Here is the version you have probably seen, and I want you to hear it at full strength before I touch it. Because at full strength, it is not a stupid argument. It says that a page from an American magazine, published in March of 1997, lists a Meghan Markle from Los Angeles and gives her age as 21. Run that. 21 in the spring of 97 puts the birth year somewhere around 1976. And a girl born in August of 1981 would have been 15 that March. Not 21, 15, 5 years in print on a page that supposedly still exists in bound volumes in libraries across America. And it does not sit there alone, an acting listing that people say once carried a different year. University photographs, a childhood anecdote or two where the dates do not sit flush. A birth certificate altered after it was filed, which we will get to. Because that one is genuinely strange. At that speed, in that order, it lands. That is how you have almost certainly met this story, and if that were all of it, you would be right to be uneasy. But there is a wrinkle in how the story travels, and it took me a while to notice, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The theory does not agree with itself. Depending on which version reaches you, the real year is 1976, or 1977, which is where the acting profile claim points. In some corners, it is 1971, which would put her at 55 right now rather than 45. 5 years, 9 years, 14 years. Same magazine, 3 different answers. Hold on to that. First, who put this back on the table?
Today felt like the perfect day to address a theory that many people out there have been speculating on, that Meghan Markle has lied about her age.
Who Tom Bower is. He is not a man with a ring light and a rumor. Tom Bower has spent 4 decades taking apart people who badly did not want to be taken apart, from Robert Maxwell, whom he went after while Maxwell was still alive and still suing everyone in reach, through Richard Branson, Tony Blair, Bernie Ecclestone, and the man who is now King Charles. His method, by his own account, is simple. He picks people who would rather you did not look, and then he looks. In 2022, he published a book on Harry and Meghan. It was hostile, and he has never pretended otherwise. Sit through the interviews he has given since, including this year, and he circles back to one idea. In his view, the couple put out so many claims that did not survive contact with the facts that the public stopped believing any of it. He has also said something that genuinely surprised people, that the world laughed at Samantha Markle and that on a number of the things she said, she turned out to be closer to right than the people doing the laughing. He is just as blunt about now. More or less in these terms, his position this year is that the decline has moved faster than even he predicted, and that he cannot see where she goes next. That is a hard read from a man with a real record. It is also, and this is the part that gets collapsed, an assessment about money and reputation. It is not a document. If you find this kind of careful, unhurried breakdown useful, the sort where we actually check the thing instead of just repeating it louder, take a second and subscribe. This channel goes through the royal stories properly, and there is a great deal more coming on this family. The magazine page. So, where is the document? Everything rests on one, and it is the magazine. 17 magazine. March 1997. Page 90. The claim goes that in a lifestyle feature on young women from Los Angeles, one name reads Meghan Markle, and beside it, 21. Sit with why that unsettles people, because it should. This is not a screenshot of a tweet. It is not a caption someone typed under a photograph. Magazines are physical objects. They were printed in the hundreds of thousands, mailed to houses, stacked in dentists' waiting rooms, and then bound into volumes and shelved in public libraries where nobody could reach in later and quietly change a number. Every other piece of the story lives on the internet and can be edited. This one, if it exists as described, cannot be. That is precisely why it became the centerpiece, and why the people sharing it sound so certain. You are not being asked to trust a source. You are being told to go and look, so go and look. That is where it gets difficult. What circulates is an image, not a scan lodged with a named archive, not a page number confirmed by a librarian on the record. Nobody has photographed it inside the bound volume with the spine visible and the surrounding pages in frame, which is the single easiest thing in the world to do and would take one afternoon. 9 years into this, with millions of people invested, with careers and channels built on it, with every incentive that exists to be the person who finally proves it, that photograph has not appeared. That absence is not proof of a forgery, but it is a very large hole where the strongest piece of evidence is supposed to sit. And there is a second thing that nags at anyone who has handled archive material. 17 was, as the name rather gives away, a magazine for teenage girls. A 21-year-old turning up in its pages is not impossible. A 15-year-old is the target reader, the exact demographic the whole publication existed to reach, and reader contributions were routine. So the same page that supposedly proves she was older than she says is also, on its face, entirely consistent with a girl who was precisely the age she says she was. That is the trouble with a document nobody can put their hands on. It will hold whatever shape you need it to hold. Which brings us to the one person on Earth who could have settled this years ago, and who wanted to more than anybody. Samantha's own book. Samantha Markle was born in November 1964. That much is public and settled. She grew up in that house. She has been the most relentless critic her sister has. She wrote a book about the family, and she took a defamation case into a Florida courtroom, which means she put her account in front of lawyers whose entire job was to check it. And her own book gives Meghan's birth year as 1981. Think about what that costs the theory. The one person with the motive, the memory, and the platform, holding a printed book and standing in a court file, put down the official year. Supporters of the theory have an answer, and it is not a silly one. Samantha has described growing up with Meghan as a younger sister she could actually play with, rather than a baby who arrived when she was already essentially grown. That is a real thing she has said, and if the gap were smaller than 17 years, the arithmetic shifts. But a feeling about closeness across a decade and a date printed in your own book are not the same weight of thing, and when they pull against each other, you go with the page. So the magazine cannot be verified, and the sister contradicts it, which is when people start stacking up everything else. The paper trail. 4 items get piled on top, and they are not equally strong. Take them one at a time, because speed is how the weak ones get through. The acting profile. It is claimed her professional listing once showed 1977 and was later quietly changed. That listing is user editable. Anybody can submit an edit to those pages, which cuts both ways with equal force. A wrong year could have sat there for years, meaning nothing whatsoever. The university. You will hear constantly that Northwestern never offered the degree she claims. That one is simply not true. She graduated in 2003 with a dual degree in theater and international studies, and international studies exists there. The viral version says international relations, then declares the whole biography fraudulent on the strength of a word that got swapped somewhere in the retelling. The classmates. It is claimed that people in her university photographs contacted privately gave birth years in the early 70s. You cannot check that. Neither can I. Anonymous recollections, relayed secondhand, decades after the fact. It is presented as the strongest item, and it is structurally the weakest. The childhood stories. She has told the story of writing to a detergent company as a child about a sexist advert many times, and says she was 11, while people argue over whether the 1993 news clip fits 11 or 12. There is a frozen yogurt job at 13, and a celebrity encounter in a car park where the advertising dates are genuinely tangled. But nobody has produced an employment record, and 1 year of drift in a story told for 30 years is not a conspiracy. Count them up: the magazine, the profile, the university, the classmates, the childhood stories, and one more thing we have not reached yet. 6 soft items do not become one hard item because you say them quickly in a row. That 6th thing is the one people find hardest to explain away. The birth certificate. Archie was born in May 2019, and the certificate was filed the ordinary way. Weeks later, it was amended. Where Meghan's first and middle names had been, the entry now read, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. The theory says that is scrubbing. Remove the legal name and you break the chain that lets anyone line a school record up against a passport application, against a marriage certificate. No name, no cross-reference, no thread to pull. Except the change was made at the palace end, not by her, and the stated reason was consistency with how the same details had been recorded for the children of the Prince and Princess of Wales, where the mother likewise appears by title rather than given names. The viral version tells you it had never been done for Kate, not once, not ever. That is the reverse of the reason that was given, and it is the sort of detail that takes 10 minutes to check and 9 years to stop repeating, which leaves the consequence everybody has been promised, and it is a big one. Where the law stands. Every version of this story ends the same way, that a false year would void the marriage, strip the titles, and throw the line of succession into doubt. Under the law of England and Wales, the grounds on which a marriage is void or voidable are set out in statute, and they are narrow. An existing marriage, a prohibited degree of relationship, being under the legal minimum age, an absence of valid consent, a misstated year of birth, where both parties are consenting adults, is not among them. It is not a technicality or a loophole. The thing being alleged simply is not on the list. So the promised ending does not follow from the accusation, And everyone repeating it has had years to check that and has not. Which raises the more interesting question, not whether it is true, why it will not die, why it spreads. Because the instinct underneath it is not irrational, and you know it is not. This is a family that has been caught out on details before, on both sides of the argument, and a public that was told a great many things by palace communications teams that later needed quiet adjusting. When trust goes, people audit everything with whatever tools they have. A magazine page, a university photograph, a profile anyone can edit. There is also a reason it grows rather than settles. Every new version has to be a little more dramatic than the last one to be worth watching, which is exactly why the numbers drift. 1976 became 1977, and in some retellings, 1971. Nobody found new evidence in between. The claims simply got bigger because bigger performs better, and that is a property of the format, not of the facts. And then there is her silence, which people read as the loudest thing in the whole story. What would settle it? It would take almost nothing. One photograph of that 1997 page inside a bound volume, with the spine and the pages either side of it visible. One classmate willing to put a name to it. One certified copy of a public record. Any single one of those turns this from an argument into a finding. Tomorrow. Not a longer video, not a louder one. One photograph. None has surfaced. What you have instead is a serious biographer making a credibility argument that deserves to be heard. A sister whose own book contradicts the central claim. A legal theory that does not match the actual law, and one image nobody has authenticated in 9 years. So tell me where you land. Is Tom Bauer right that this family has burned through its credibility to the point where people are entitled to question everything? Or has a thin piece of evidence been carried a very long way by how badly people wanted it to be true? Put it in the comments because I read them, and this one is going to divide you. And if you want the royal stories checked properly, rather than shouted, subscribe, and take a look at the videos on your screen right now.